For those of you who have already joined, welcome. We're just going to give it a few more moments just for allowing a few other people to join us as well. And I am Scott Cranfield. You'll see that in a minute if you can't see me just yet. And welcome to Linking Mind and Body for Optimal Golf and Life. A special program put together, particularly for the times we're in right now, which I hope you're going to find useful and beneficial. I'll go through a few practical things as well during this presentation. You are welcome to have a golf club with you if you think that's something you'd like. Obviously, I'll let you be the judge of whether your environment is safe for that. It's not necessary. The few things I'm going to go through from a practical perspective, you will not need a club for, but you may enjoy having it there so that you can also then quickly relate it to holding the club as well. But as I say, it's not necessary. You may want to have a notepad with you to hopefully gather some notes as we go along. I've created a bit of a makeshift area so that I can move around a bit, so you will see my camera moving around a few times. So hopefully that doesn't create you any motion sickness as I do that. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. So there I am. Welcome, and thanks for joining me on this special broadcast, Linking Mind and Body for Optimal Golf and Life. Something that in the times we're living in right now, I just hope this is going to be of use and benefit to you, to share some ideas really that can help in both your golf and in your life. I love how golf gives us so many opportunities to learn and to grow, and there's a definite correlation with some of the things that go on in life when we're on the golf course. So I think it's fascinating. I hope I can share some ideas today that will be of value to you. There will be some practicals as well. So let's just go through some of my objectives, I guess, for you for this presentation. I hope that by the end of it, you will feel, should we say, a new sense of enthusiasm and inspiration for your own mind and body. A greater understanding of it to some extent, but enthused that actually who you are and what you've got is pretty special. And I think that's important to grasp that, and that will become more evident as we go through. And I want to share with you some practical steps, some practical steps for your mind, some practical steps for your body, reference to your golf, so that if you use them, I'm absolutely certain they will make a difference. What I will say to you is, I've put as a warning, you won't necessarily find, certainly in the golfing world, much of this type of advice there. And there's good reason for that, and I'll come to that as we go through the presentation. As I said to you already, I'm going to be moving around a bit, so bear with me as we do it, as we flip between different areas of technology. So what I would like to do is I'm going to talk about some of the concerns that I'm going to try and address through this presentation. I'm going to address also that if you don't take on board and contemplate and apply some of what I'm going to learn, what some of the challenges you may get caught up in or stuck in. And I think you may be able to relate to some of those. And then I'm obviously going to talk about the benefits you can receive by applying some of the information we're going to go through here. And obviously that's hopefully why you're here. That's the key part. And then I'm going to go through some practicals for your mind, some practicals for your body as well. And actually I'm going to close with an offer, which hopefully will be of interest to you as well. So let's go through. As I mentioned already that some of this information you're not going to see readily available. The golf industry tends to, as probably most industries, it tends to look within the industry and tends to often use the best players in the world as the model for the way to do it. And that becomes the model, and therefore everybody else is trying to copy that and follow that. And there's a huge amount of logic in that, and we need that. And for every coach, that's an important part of our study, if you like. And for a player, for you as a club golfer or a professional, whatever you are, beginner even, there's value in that. But I think you've got to be careful. There's a problem with this, and I think it's a big one. Your mind and your body were around way before, not necessarily your own personal mind and body, but the human mind and body was around way before golf was ever thought about. And sometimes we layer things on top as we're trying to get better, and we sometimes miss the really basics, and we sometimes miss the essentials. Actually, how does this mind work? How does this body work? And that isn't a question that's often asked when we're learning the golf swing. You know, we often look at it as what does the golf swing need to do, rather than what is it the body is capable of doing, and how does this body work, and what golf swing would that then produce? I think that's a really interesting question. I'm always curious to try and get to what I call the truth of things. I always want to just go under that extra stone to kind of keep peeling back the onion, if you like, to see if I can get to the root of something. Because I believe if you can, in your mind and your body, the things that can potentially unravel from there, and I mean unravel in a positive way, in the sense that actually you don't need to now think about the 3,000 things you're thinking about. You don't have to do the multiple exercises to get better, because you've got to the root of something. I'm really fascinated by that. And even in this short presentation, I'm hoping I'm going to share a couple of things with you which will demonstrate that, and that if you apply them, you will find them, I think, hugely beneficial and useful. So one of the other concerns really I'd like to address is that we get caught on feelings in golf. Golf is classical for that, because let's face it, the information is so available now. You know, there's just an abundance of information, and it's instantly available. So probably all of you are on YouTube at some point looking at the latest tips, golf magazines, tips on TV, that type of thing. And it's so easy to hear something, read something, that you go, wow, I'll try that. And here's the fascinating thing I've always found really amazing is, do you know what? Most of the time when you try that thing for the first time, it works, and it works straight away. But then what happens? It stops working, and it stops working very often, almost straight away. And so you get on this kind of yo-yo of going up and down, because you're getting latched onto the latest feeling, the latest craze. And these are the things I'm saying, these are the things that are layered on the top of the truth sometimes, the true magic, as I'm going to say, inside your body. You know, we search for the secret. You know, we use YouTube and the magazines and the TV, and we're searching for the secret, looking for it, and thinking this is the one. And you go to the golf course or the golf range and you hit, this is it, I found it, I found the secret. And as we know, as I've said, that secret often disappears. And that's a dangerous trap, you know, getting caught in that, searching for that all the time. Rather than what, again, I'm going to propose is, I'm not dismissing, by the way, some of those concepts and ideas. They could well be right for you. But what I'm absolutely certain is not right for you is a new one every week. Or some people say a new one every shot. That's not ever going to work. There's no evidence in history of that ever working for anything. You do need to build on foundations. And what I want to do is help make sure that we address that you've got to get back to good foundations. And I want to share some with you today that maybe, again, you've not thought about, but I want to get back to the core of how magnificent your mind and body is. And let's tap into that, no matter what you think it's like. You might be saying to me, you don't know my mind and body. But I do, in the sense of I understand to a point the nature of that. And no matter whether you have, even if you have current injuries, even if you have current concerns, that magnificence is still in there. And we can draw out at least some of that, which is going to be beneficial. So that's really a big wish for me today in this presentation. I said it's not, what I'm going to share with you is not mainstream. You don't see this in the mainstream. And the reason for that is because it doesn't fall into that trap that I've just discussed or just mentioned of this instant fix and this instant magical cure. So I suppose in that sense, it's a little less sexy, you might say, if it's okay to say that. You might say that because you're dealing with the basics, the fundamentals. You know, putting the foundations in for a house, unless it's your own house, it's not necessarily that exciting. But watching a house be remade from the inside with all the decoration and the interiors and that sort of stuff, that can be quite sexy and appealing, and that's fun. But actually, that's going to fall down, that house, if somebody forgot to put the foundations in properly. So the foundations don't always tend to be quite as exciting, and so therefore they get missed and people don't dwell on them. I tend to go a little bit the opposite. I want to keep coming back to them because just know what's possible when you do that. So that's what we're going to look at there. Okay, what are some of the risks you potentially face if you don't follow this advice? Well, you can get forever trapped looking for that next secret, that next magic. You get trapped in it because actually you get an endorphin rush when it works. And so we get addicted to those things. Anything that gives us that rush, and we know when you hit a golf shot well, wow, that feels amazing, doesn't it? And so you get a rush from that. And of course, if that little magical tip that you've had has expired, as I like to say, it's a one-day tip and it's expired, then you're looking for the next one. And that becomes addictive, looking for that. So it does become a bit of a trap. Albert Einstein was famously quoted for saying that the definition of insanity is repeating your actions of yesterday and expecting a better result today. Think about that. You think about your golf progress or any progress in your life. If it's not moving in the direction you want, if it's not progressing the way you want, then probably that plan isn't the right plan. And yet we tend to get stuck on plans, the one we're on, like this trap of trying to find this magical cure in golf. And we get stuck on that. And we don't change that process. We don't change that plan. And we keep doing it, keep doing it. And we don't get any better really over the long term. That's insanity. That's why, if any of you work with any of the coaches within Cranfield Golf Academy, we're big on setting a plan. It's for us and for you. We want you to stick to that plan. Because if you stick to the plan and you work on the fundamentals and you layer it properly, you can build nicely. You risk your enjoyment. I love it when you say to me, why do you play golf? Oh, it's relaxing and enjoyable. Go and watch them play. That does not look relaxing and enjoyable, some of their reactions on the golf course. So I think that you risk not having the full enjoyment. And I've said they're expensive, and I've said not necessarily financially, because absolutely, I think the expense is the time wasted in searching. The unrealistic expectation that I might find the magical cure, the magical bullet. And the time wasted of the emotion unnecessarily. That's the expense in my mind. And you risk being on this emotional roller coaster, this yo-yo of changing things all the time. So they're kind of some of the risks that I think you potentially have if you don't follow some of this advice. So what can you expect if you do follow this advice? Well, a clearer mind. I think probably one of my favorite phases is that if you can get out of your own way. And I'll explain why that is. And it goes back to what I said earlier, is that if you, meaning our thoughts, our distracting thoughts, can get out of our own way, well, then what's left is this incredible machine of a brain, this incredible body. And again, you might be shouting at me saying, you don't know mine. But trust me, no matter what's going on, it's still magnificent. There is never going to be a machine or a computer built that would ever match the ability and the capacity and the exquisite magnificence of your brain and body. Trust me, that will never, ever happen. So when we can get out of our own way and clear this clutter, then we have this incredible machine and brain and body to work with. And that's why we want to get out of our own way. You'll have a much more emotionally balanced golf and life because you'll learn, even in the short time we have today, you're going to learn some understanding about how the mind works to start to balance some of those emotions, and you'll see why that's important. Some of the things we go from a practical perspective will produce better timing in your golf swing. Your body will move in a better sequence. No matter where you're at, it will move in a better sequence. You will be less prone to injury when you understand some of the things we're going to go through today. Because if your body movement really is a sequence, and if you can learn to move in that sequence more effectively, then your body's almost back home, you might call, and therefore it's working in a better way. It's less chance of it getting injured. And the golf swing, actually, by the way, as you'll see in a moment, is quite a intense movement for the body. There's a lot of stress going through the body during that. So moving in the right way can reduce that tendency of injury. You will find the sweet spot more often. When your timing is better, your body's moving in a better sequence, you will hit the ball out of the sweet spot more often, which is a lovely feeling, we know. And it may not feel quite such hard work. Sometimes how golf and life can feel hard work. That's a lot to do with what we're thinking about, a lot to do with the way we're going about it. I hope I'm going to share some ideas that will help to clear some of that for you. Okay. So let's get into some of the key principles for the mind. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera now. So I'm wired up as well. So just bear with me while I reorganize myself and hopefully get things out of the way. Okay, I think we're in good shape there. So principle number one, the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. Actually, go back one step. What is the optimal mind for golf and life? Well, if there was an optimal, what I would say, and yeah, you can definitely see me, can't you? What I would say is there was an optimal, is it would be balanced. You'd be centered. And actually, the word balance is probably the key one, because if your mind is balanced and you're physically balanced, that's probably the optimal place. And that's exactly the things we're going to go through today is exactly what that's going to address. It's going to look to try and get your mind into a more balanced place and get your body into a more balanced place. In that place, you're centered. You know, if we say here, you're right in that center, you know, and therefore you're steady. If that was a spinning top and the core of that spinning top was in the middle there, it can spin round, it will be steady. If we move the axis over here somewhere or the core over here, it's going to wobble and fall. And that's similar to our mind and our body. I'm just going to tilt you slightly because it looks a bit wonky to me. Okay, hope that's okay. That if we can get our mind and body centered, then that's going to be a key thing. Now, the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. What does that mean? Well, there's only three things in our life we can control. There's only three things we can control. And that is our perceptions, our decisions, and our actions. Think about it. They are the only three things we have control over. We have an experience in life, okay? You might say, let's just quickly do a sketch here. A bad sketch of a head, okay? We have an experience in our life, okay? We have an experience. The experience comes in. What happens is we take that experience in and we whirl it around in our mind. We're making a perception of what does it mean? And we decide in that process what does it mean. Those two things do effectively create the meaning to that event to us. They create the meaning. From that, we take action, or non-action sometimes. But we have an experience, we perceive what that is, we decide what the meaning is, and then we sometimes take action or inaction, depending on that. Well, here's the really interesting thing. They're the only three things we can control. The thing that influences this the most, okay, all of these parts, is the questions we ask ourselves. Okay? If we can learn to ask empowering questions, then we can get empowered answers. And your brain is a question and answer machine. You're doing it all day long. You're making decisions all day long by asking questions that you're not necessarily even conscious of, but that's what's going on. Okay? So I would like to help you get into the discipline of that one simple thing of saying to yourself, right, I'm going to become conscious of the questions I'm going to ask. Because if you become conscious of them, you get a different result. Let me give you a story. When I worked with a player called Robert Jan Derksen many years ago, he was a very good player on the European Tour, but for 5 years running, he never was able to keep his playing card. So he lost his card, and every year he went back to the playing school and got it back again. But that was his cycle. I got to work with him after those 5 years. And I assessed his game, and he had a magnificent game, as you would imagine. Okay, he might have only been 150th in Europe, but he still had a magnificent game. But what I identified was when he was preparing for shots and playing his shots, he was focused on what he didn't want to do, what he wanted to avoid. And actually, I'm going to simplify, but all we had to do was to introduce a question that his brain then had to come up with a new answer for. And the question was simply this: what is the best shot for me to hit in this situation? What is the best shot for me to hit in this situation? Now, what that meant was his brain then searched and went, well, there's water on the right There's a bunker on the left, the flag's at the back. The sensible shot is actually just to play to the middle of the green. That's the best shot to hit in this situation. If I'm in trouble, I'm behind the trees, but there is a tiny, tiny gap that if I hit this 1 in a million shot, I go out. But if I ask the question, what's the best shot to hit in this situation? My brain searches and sees other answers. So, well, actually, the best shot is to play a little chip and run out under the tree, into the fairway, and then play onto the green. So I want you to get this discipline of learning to ask questions, or actually becoming conscious of asking questions, because you're asking questions all day long, but you might be asking things like, oh, why do I always mess up on this hole? Why am I terrible at chipping? Why is it I can never concentrate? Why is it I never beat this person? They're all questions, aren't they? And what you're not necessarily aware of is every time you ask a question, your brain is now looking for that answer. It's searching. And you may not be conscious of that, but it's searching and telling you why you always mess up, telling you why you can never beat that person, telling you why you're useless at chipping. It's telling you the answer in your brain, but you're not conscious of it. So I want you to take command of that, control of that, and start to ask questions that are quality questions, because then you'll get a quality life, you get quality golf, just as Robert Jan Derksen did. So one great discipline, I wrote a few down here, is actually, as I said, I want to weave golf and life together today, because I think it's a lovely thing to do anyway, but particularly in the situation we're in. Use morning questions. This was something I picked up from Tony Robbins, who's a huge personal development speaker. And it works extremely well. Just write them down, make up your own ones, but get in the habit of the morning of asking yourself questions, and sometimes in the evening as well. So you wake up in the morning, and as you're brushing your teeth or you're having your shower, getting ready, having your tea, whatever it is, ask yourself, what am I happy with about in my life right now? Now, again, some of you may instantly go, have you seen my life? I'm not happy about anything. I'm going to tell you a little trick in a minute. And this is, by the way, if you're a parent, this is going to be a great trick as well. But it's a great one for you as well. But what am I happy about in my life right now? What am I excited about in my life right now? What am I proud of in my life right now? Probably the most important one, what am I grateful for in my life right now? What am I enjoying most in my life right now? Who do I love? Who loves me in my life right now? Okay? Questions that I want you to stop, have a quiet moment to yourself and think about. Because if you allow yourself the time to do that, and you allow your brain the time to give you those answers, and if you're persistent with the question, stay persistent with it. If you do that, you'll get answers coming back in that will change your mind and bring you back to center. And that's where we want to be. Now, here's the trick part I said that you might need. If you're going to be, there's nothing to be happy about, there's nothing to be grateful about, etc. You simply put the preface to the question of saying, what could I? Okay, so this is great for kids, as I said. They might, or actually in any situation. In fact, let me put it into a golf context for you, because I use this a lot and I love, this is one of my favorite lessons of all time. So I would say to somebody once who's struggling with their game, and you can use this, and this involves kind of everything I've just spoke about, the questions. I would say to them, once I've worked on their setup, their basics have got them right, and they look good in their setup now. I would say to them, wow, you look like a professional in that setup now. So what I'd like you to do now is I would like you to show me what a golf professional swing would look like. Okay, so it's kind of, I'm giving them the question, show me what a professional golf swing would look like. And they say to me, I don't know how to do that. I'm a 28 handicap. How am I supposed to do that? And I say to them, I know you can't do it, but if you could, what would it look like? Okay, and the moment I say I know you can't, but if you could, what would it look like? What happens is it takes the resistance away in the brain, and the brain now looks for the what if I could part. So if you're thinking, I've got nothing there's nothing I'm enjoying in my life right now. Say, well, I know you're not really enjoying something like that, but if you could be enjoying something, what would it be? And when you ask it in that way, what could it be? Your brain now looks and searches, and it will find something. And here's the important thing, it finds something genuine in your life. Because we delete so much in our life that actually is enjoyable, we could be grateful for, we could be happy for, we could be thankful for. We delete so much of that sometimes, but if we learn to ask the right questions, we can bring those back to our attention, and that can make a huge difference. So questions, the quality of the questions is really important. Use them in golf, like the Robert Jan Derksen. What exactly is the best shot for me to hit in this situation? If you've had a bad start in a round, what's the right mindset and attitude to recover from this start? Those type of questions can be said, how would I like my swing to feel on this shot? You're tapping in to what you want to happen rather than focusing on what you don't want. We sometimes put our attention so much on what we don't want, where we can use the questions to help ourselves focus on what we do want. So play with some of that, get some of your own. You can see I've given examples of golf and life. But understand, every time you ask a question and you're not always conscious of them, there's an answer being created within your brain. So let's take charge of that and make our questions conscious so that actually we can get empowered answers back for us as well. Okay, now, principle number 2, developing a balanced mind. Okay, and these, hopefully you'll see a progression as we go through these things here. I want to share something with you that, again, this is not what you're going to hear in the mainstream. And I'll start it with a question to you. So think about this question. If I said to you, are you always positive, never negative? Are you always happy, never sad? Are you always kind, never cruel? Are you always giving, never taking? Are you always calm, never raffled? What would you say? You'd probably say, no, that's not me. I'm not always that way. Okay, what if I said to you this? Are you always negative, never positive? Are you always cruel, never kind? Are you always sad, never happy? Are you always taking, never giving? Are you always raffled, never calm? I think you'd say, no, that's not me either. But now here's the point. If I said to you, are you sometimes positive, sometimes negative? Sometimes happy, sometimes sad? Sometimes kind, sometimes cruel? Sometimes taking, sometimes giving? Sometimes raffled, sometimes calm? Now I'm sure you're saying that yes, that's me. With certainty, you know that's you. Now, here's the really important thing that you do not get taught in mainstream. The way the human mind works is it's always balanced between positive and negative. It's always aware of both positive and negative in experiences. Yet, we get promoted the idea that we should always be positive, we should always be happy. The truth is, it's not the nature of the mind. That's not the way we're set up. And you're never, and by the way, that question, I have been involved either myself or with others asking that question to tens of thousands of people. And everybody can only say with absolute certainty that they're the one in the middle, where they're a bit of both at different times in their life. That's the only one they can be certain with, because that's the nature of life. You will not meet a one-sided person. You will never be a one-sided person in your life. If you're striving to be happy all the time or striving to be positive all the time and avoiding the other, you will cause yourself challenge because you have an unrealistic expectation on what's possible. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody ever will do it because it's not the nature of how the mind works. The mind is always balanced. So learning to see the balance is one of the most empowering things you can do. That's one of the ways you'll definitely master your life and master your golf, when you can learn to see that balance. So one of the ways that I am going to ask you to do this, or one of the things I use this with golfers and consider doing it, is quite simply this, because I'm sure, by the way, that, and let me actually go on to the next part and then we come back. We tend to judge ourselves and others based on seeing more positive than negative or more negative than positive. That creates a judgment. Any time in our life where we are seeing more of one than the other. Let me just do this way. So let's say, for example, here's our positive, here's our negative. So any time I'm seeing more negative in something, I'm going to make a judgment about that. I'm going to label that. That's a bad person. I'm terrible at chipping. I can never get very far in my job. Anytime I've stacked up more negatives, I'm going to have a judgment. Equally, anytime I stack up more positives, I'm going to have a judgment. Oh, they're wonderful. Oh, my driving today was amazing. That's how I want it to be every day. Okay, we're going to have a label and a judgment around that. The truth is the mind knows the balance. The moment you label something, the moment you make a judgment on something, it blocks your resourcefulness and it blocks your ability to communicate. Think of it this way. If you've judged somebody in your life and you have labeled them for always being a certain way, it might be your kids, might be your partner, could be yourself, could be somebody at work, and you've judged them, they are always this way. Anytime you hear yourself saying always and nevers, that language is telling you you've made a label. Anytime you're doing that and you're saying that person's a certain way, you now have a new filter in your brain, and that's all you see in them. And that means you have emotional reaction far stronger because that's the only way you see them. You've trapped them in there. You don't see any of this. You're only looking here, and then you get your emotional reaction every time they do something like that. Okay? So that, when you have that emotional reaction, that's going to break down. Your communication to them will be really different. You won't be able to communicate to them in a balanced way. You're going to be more intense, you're going to argue more, etc. But this is all true of ourselves as well. If we have made the decision we're a terrible driver of the golf ball, or putter is maybe an easy one to think, terrible putter, or I'm always bad at putting, and we've stacked all that up, we've labeled ourselves as that. Every time we do something that resembles that, we have a far stronger emotional reaction. We're ignoring when we're putting well. And you're probably saying to me, if you're the one who's the bad putter, you're going, but I don't putt well. You do. You do. And trust me, as we go through this exercise, you're going to see that you do. But what happens is it gets even more. And you'll have friends like this in golf, by the way, who claim the identity of being a terrible putter, or claim the identity of being a terrible driver of the ball, whatever it is. And yet you think to yourself, well, I can remember them driving the ball well. They hit 3 great drives today, or they putted well today. They hold a great putt, but they don't see it. Because actually, here's another really important thing. Your eyes, your hearing are affected by the way your mind works. Your eyesight will actually see different things depending on what's going through your mind. And so the person that's creating identity, I'm a terrible putter, doesn't actually even see consciously. Of course they do see it. They don't even see consciously when they're putting well. And so that creates a huge emotional reaction because they have this unbalanced idea about themselves. And so I want to come back to the truth about the way the human mind works is it is actually always balanced. So here's the exercise I mentioned that I'll come back to. So this is something that's a really simple one to do. So don't miss it because of its simplicity. And you basically, what you do is let's start it general, okay? And we will start it general and say, I like to use my different colors. Let's say we're going to go on playing great golf, okay? Now, so that's our subject, playing great golf. It's a general one. It's a general one. You might be thinking, well, playing great golf is all positive, isn't it? There's no negatives in that. There is negatives in that, okay? What I want you to do is to take this exercise to expand your mind. Because if we can take the emotional roller coaster away, you're going to play it best. Remember what we said on the previous one? What is the optimal mind for golf and life? It's a centered one. It's a balanced one. And that's an interesting point, by the way. A bit like my positive, negative, happy, sad example, where you suddenly realize, yes, I'm the one in the middle. Actually, if I ask people the question, when you're playing a golf shot, do you want to be in a really hyped up positive state? Do you want to be in a down negative state, or do you want to be neutral in the middle? Most people actually intuitively know they want to be in the middle, centered. They kind of know that. Some people might say positive, but most say centered. I wonder what your answer was to that. So again, can you see that actually our intuition is often revealing to us the truth, even though the world is promoting that we should be positive all the time and happy all the time. But our intuition knows different. That's the magnificence again that we already have. So playing great golf, what I'd like you to do is I would like you to think about the positives of playing great golf and the negatives of playing great golf. But here's the really important thing. You only go one at a time so they match. Okay? So, oh, hang on. I've just seen my screen has changed, which I hope means I haven't lost you. I don't think I have. Okay. Sorry about that, but suddenly the screen went blank. But you only go one at a time. So you might say, what's a benefit or a positive about playing great golf? You might say, beat my friends. Okay, so you put that in here. And then you might say, okay, what's the negative of playing great golf? And again, initially you might be struggling. You go, that's the negative. Think about that. Beat my friends. Actually, friends don't talk to me. Okay, or friend upset. Okay, let's say. Okay. Doesn't want to stay around and have a drink with me afterwards. But can you see? Now, here's the important thing. You go 1-1, because otherwise what will happen is your brain will go to what it's conditioned to do rather than the truth. And it might go 10 here, and then you might go, oh, I don't know any negatives. But if you do that, you haven't learned the art of the exercise, and you will not tap into this magnificence of the truth of what your mind knows. Now, of course, you can do that. So hopefully that makes sense. Do that for anything. You can do that for somebody in your life. And this is a wonderful thing to do. You'll be shocked if you take the time to do this. If you used to write down somebody in your life, a family member, a friend, a work colleague, or whatever, and say, let me list all the benefits, all the positives of them, and all the negatives of them. But again, make sure you go 1-1. You should be able to get to probably 20 at least on each side. And what you'll suddenly realize is this person that I've been judging for either being amazing or judging for being terrible. They're just a human being with both sides. And when you can see the truth there, you can appreciate them for who they are. Because nobody actually wants the pressure of trying to be put on a pedestal. And nobody wants the pain of being put in the pit all the time. People just want to be appreciated for who they are. You can't appreciate yourself or somebody else if you're trying to only look for one side of them, or if you're criticizing them for another side of them. You cannot appreciate yourself or another person if you're doing that. And again, if we're going to have a balanced mind, which is going to be best for your golf and best for your life, you need to learn to see both sides. So it's a really simple exercise. It involves questions, and it involves finding that balance on both sides in your golf and in your life. You could do it for the coronavirus. If the coronavirus is something for you that's causing you a lot of anguish, you go, what's the benefits of the coronavirus? What's the drawbacks of the coronavirus? Okay, and make sure it's balanced, and you'll see it is. Okay, and that may be hard sometimes to understand, but just do the exercise. I promise you that you'll see the benefit in that. So you just keep an eye on time as well. Okay, so let me just go through the last part of this one here, and then we're going to get on to the practicals for the actual golf swing. And this one's a short one anyway. And it hopefully encompasses everything. Principle number 3 is stop running stories. Your life and your golf will pretty much become the story that you keep telling yourself. So if you keep telling yourself, you're a terrible driver of the ball, you're a terrible putter, you can never putt under pressure, you can never play good bunker shots. You keep telling yourself that story, that's probably going to become the reality. Best way to stop telling stories is see things as they are, not worse than they are. We exaggerate, we blow things up in our mind. And as we do that, in our mind, actually now we're seeing them far worse than they really, really are. And I'll give you another story again about a tour player, Per-Ulrik Johansson, who's a Swedish Ryder Cup player. I was working with him at a tournament at the Oxfordshire Golf Club many years ago, and he was in the third round. I think he was going into the third round, he was lying second, and he didn't play particularly well. I think he shot two over, I think, maybe 3 over. It was a tough day, and now dropped back to somewhere around 10, 11, 12. Came off the golf course, really angry. Oh, driving's terrible. I'm driving the ball miles right. So I wanted to break his pattern. So I said to him, after he said to me, I'm driving the ball miles right, I said to him, I looked at my watch, I said, wow, I said, you've done really well then. What do you mean I've done well? Well, considering you've been walking miles right a lot, you've seemed to have got around at a good time. Don't be silly, don't be silly. So, but I broke his pattern by saying it to him and kind of got him out of this trap he was in his head, broke the pattern. And then I said to him, okay, come on, let's get accurate with this now. How many drives went to the right? Loads. No. How many? I don't want the exaggerated emotion. How many? And he went through 5. Okay. Of the 5 that went to the right, how many were a problem in the sense that you had to kind of recover, chip out of it? 2. Okay. So now we've gone from angry, driving the ball miles right, to I hit 2 that got me into a bit of trouble. That's not as bad, is it? That's as it is, not worse than it is. That's the truth. Let's just see it as it is, not worse than it is. By doing that, now, can you imagine if he had gone to the practice ground after that with the whole belief, I'm driving it miles right? Can you imagine the reconstruction he might think he has to do to try and get himself ready for the tomorrow? Now, I've hit 2 that's got me into a bit of trouble. Okay, maybe it's just my alignment. Maybe I just didn't concentrate. Maybe I didn't have a key target for when I hit the shot. By seeing things as they are, you don't get exaggerated. You're a lot more accurate with your thinking, and that will change things. So, maybe if you're a parent, your kids, and they leave a mess, see it as it is. It's 3 books left on the floor or 5 bits of clothes on the floor, rather than blowing it out of proportion. By all means, bring in whatever you need to do to get them to be better at it, but just for your sake, see it as it is, and for theirs, because you'll communicate much better. Okay, right, let's get on to, I hope that's been useful so far. Let's get on to some of the movement patterns that I'd like to go through here. I hope you're enjoying this so far. I'm enjoying doing it for you. I hope it's been of value. So let's get on to here. Now, I'm actually, if you haven't really realized, I'm wearing shorts, not because I'm in some really hot climate, but because I'm going to be focusing on my lower half of my body and my feet for you to share something with you. So you'll see that in a minute. And if you're going to follow along with me, which you probably will want to do at this stage, ideally do it barefooted, because that's going to make a difference to you as well. So first of all, I mentioned this earlier. I think it was Paul Chek from the Chek Institute made the assessment that he felt that when you're swinging a golf club with a driver, the forces that are going through your body is the equivalent to 90% of your maximum rep that you could do, 1 rep. So that means that if you was doing a squat with a barbell, or you was doing a push with a barbell, whatever weight it is you could only do 1 of, and that was it. You can't even get to the second one. Whatever that weight would be, the force that goes through your body in the golf swing is equivalent to 90% of that. In other words, it's potentially a huge amount of force. That's going through your joints. And if your joints are not lined up in the right way, this is where injuries can happen. It's just potentially one of the causes for that. Movement comes from the ground up in its simplest form. I think the feet are a very misunderstood and misassessed part of playing golf. If we can get your feet engaged properly with the ground, it can change the way everything else in your body works. The feet are just like their own spine. If they're not in a neutral position, if they're not in neutral position, the bones won't be able to move properly. That then affects everything else above. If the feet are working properly, they become like springs. Then you can create power against the ground. You can move much more fluidly. And then again, everything else above moves much better as well. So the feet, and again, think about it. We're on our feet. Well, every time you're moving around, you're on your feet. So you rely on your feet a lot, but how often do you think about them? How often do you get back in touch with them? And so if we can learn, what I'm going to take you through is a few exercises here that relate to golf, and with a golf movement included, that if you can learn to get back in touch with it, so many other things in your golf swing potentially change. Because when you're balanced correctly through your feet, you have more chance of getting your joints into a better place. You have better chance of better rotation in the swing, better balance in the swing, better ability to create power in the swing, which is where you're going to hit it out the sweet spot more often and create more distance with your shots. So what I'm going to do actually, let's just first of all, I'm going to bring the camera down here, and we're going to just go down, and you're going to have the pleasure of looking at my feet. Okay, so I've got this wire obviously here, which hopefully won't distract. So what I'd like you to do, and this is where you can play along with me, is I would like you to first of all just stand up, and in fact, actually, I'm going to bring up one other slide, because there we go. Now, very often should we say, a neutral foot position is described as the tripod foot, where there are 3 points of contact. So basically those two images are showing you the same thing, but just in a different way. And I want you, as you're standing, to bring your attention to just underneath what's called the Met head here, and just underneath the base, if you like, of the little toe there, and obviously in the heel. Same thing on both sides. So the tripod, exactly you see on the screen. I want you to just learn to bring your attention to those areas and see if you can feel the connection between those areas and the ground. Can you feel that balance point, and can you feel that evenly distributed pressure across those 3 points? Okay, can you do that? Now, for some of you, you might now suddenly feel, wow, I've recentered a bit. You know, maybe you're used to living back here. Some of you might find it difficult, by the way, just to stand still for a while. You might lock out your legs to stand still. It means you're too far on your heels. Some of you might sway a lot because you may be going to your toes too far, and then you're swaying as you're standing still. But when you go to the tripod place, you should be able to feel like your knees are unlocked, but straight in a sense, but unlocked. And you should feel like, well, I can stay here for ages. I'm just in a balanced position. I can stand here all day long. I want you to bring your attention to that. I want you to just be aware of that, because my experience is most people are not. Now, it's going to have huge benefits in your life as well, because you're standing talking to people from time to time. Just bring your attention to that. There was a lovely story by they interviewed a famous lawyer many years ago in New York, and he was well known for dealing with extreme cases, huge intensity in the courtroom, but was always calm. And when they interviewed him, they said to him, how do you do it? Everybody else is losing their cool, but you're very calm and collected and focused in it. How do you do it? He said, that's quite easy. He said, I just focus on my feet. And the interviewer said, sorry, what do you mean you focus on your feet? He said, well, when I can sense the connection of my feet to the ground, I feel grounded. I feel centered. I feel balanced. And then my mind is much calmer. And think about that. We live in our heads so much. And actually, for some of us, that can relate to getting tense shoulders, raised shoulders, tension in the neck, in the head, etc. Sometimes we've lost connection with the ground. And that's why actually being barefooted can be really helpful, to let yourself go back to the ground and find that tripod. Feel that tripod. And then when you can do that, that's going to, again, it's helping your body and your mind, and it's going to help the movement we're going to come into the goal swing. So that's really a key part. Now, let's go to the next stage. I'm going to bring that image, hopefully remember that. Let's just bring you back to here. So let's just, I'm going to try and get as far away as I can so you can see me. Now, what we're going to do now is, sorry, I'm just going to do that one more tweak if I can. Okay. Right, so what we're going to do here is, I want you to now, we're going to build your golf posture. And this is where it can now start to make a huge difference in your golf swing. Because, by the way, your spine has to go through, if you want the optimal golf swing, one where you are going to be likely to be more consistent and more powerful, your spine needs to work in a certain way. Okay, it needs to rotate in a certain way, it needs to bend in a certain way. The bottom line is, it's not going to do that if your feet are not in a neutral position. So by doing this, everything above, the ankle, the knee, the pelvis, the ribs, everything above is going to have a better chance of working more effectively. So let's go back, and what we're going to do is, from our standing position, we're going to find the tripod. Okay, so we're going to find that tripod. And I've got that tripod now. Now, from there, okay, so normally, let's say I'm just standing here and I've got the tripod. From there, we're going to form your posture by creasing at the front of the hip here. Now, that's an important point. And I was guilty of this before. I used to think of pushing my rear out this way. Okay, and that may look like quite a good golf posture, but it's just changed that tripod. I'm not on that tripod anymore. So I want to get to the tripod, crease at the hips, and now I'm still on the tripod. So the tripod has not changed as I have formed this shape of posture. So I have those pressure points in the same place. That's critical. Now, for simplicity, what you're then going to do is you're going to put your arms across your chest, and you can do this with a golf club across your chest if you want, and you're going to start taking yourself through the movement of the golf swing. But I want you to feel like it's your feet taking the rest of the body through the golf swing. So we're going to get into the tripod. We're going to crease at the hip, so we're still through the tripod. I'm going to take my body through the motion of the golf swing, but feel like it's my feet moving me through the golf swing. Now, as I do that, so you might want to watch me first, and then you can try it yourself. As I do that, of course, there will be a weight shift. So you might say there's more on the tripod on the right now, and then there's more on the tripod on the left now for a right-handed player. There is a bit more intricate detail goes on in that. But for the purpose of this, and for the purpose, I think for you, you don't need to get into that detail yet. Just become conscious of the tripod, conscious of the connection, and let's see if you can maintain that awareness of that tripod throughout the movement. Yes, it will shift slightly to the right, and yes, it will shift slightly to the left. But can you be aware of it? And be aware that it's not going to one point of the tripod, let's say on the, you can see me there, one point of the tripod on the way back, you know, either way. Just be aware of that. Now, what will happen is when you start to do that and you start to move through, now everything is going to stay stacked up over your feet much better. Your pelvis will be over your feet better, your knees over your ankles, etc. As a result, your spine is more likely to work in the right way, in a way that's going to allow you to stay balanced and to create power. Okay, now I'm going to take you through one other little movement as well here. Okay, so let me just bring it to there. Okay. So just to recap, tripod on the feet, essential. Be aware of it when you're in your normal standing posture because you're going to bring awareness to it. Barefooted, really, really helpful. Just almost learning to massage your feet against the ground. Just playing around and feeling the different pressure points. So we have to learn sometimes by doing it, by pushing ourselves past boundaries. So, if you are not sure where you are, then go too far to the toes, go too far to the heels, find out. By going to those extremities, then actually as a result of that, you go, there's the tripod. When I'm in the tripod, I can now crease from the hip. My spine is going to be in a good position. My knees are ready, and then I can go through the golf swing movement. Now, here's a little exercise you can do as well. I'm just going to adjust that a little bit more. That you can do as well, which I think you'll find helpful as well. So from your standing position, this way first of all, you got the tripod. What I want you to do is to learn to move each part of the body. So from this position here, it's going to be a standing position, but it relates to the golf swing and it relates to the health of your spine as well. You got the tripod. You're going to just concentrate on below the pelvis, and you're just going to move, or the pelvis and below. You're just going to move the pelvis around to whichever side is natural to you. So I'm obviously going to my right here. Once that's gone to where you think it can go, then let the ribs go round. When they've gone as far as they can go comfortably, then you're going to let your head and the rest of your body finish off as well. Okay? So just once again, so you're going to move from the pelvis underneath the spine, then you're going to move the ribs around, and then you're going to move the head around. And doing that, learning to segregate different areas of the body is going to help the kinetic chain of the golf swing. Now, obviously, then you can do it the other way round as well. Okay, you're going to move from the pelvis under, the ribs, and then finish off, letting the neck go round as well. Now, obviously, you won't let your neck go round in the golf swing, but we're dealing with the kinetic movement, if you like, of the body, learning the sequence. That sequence is going to be useful and very, very beneficial. And you may find for some of you that, if you struggle with neck stiffness, going in this order, actually, you may find suddenly your neck can move a lot better. So there could be some potential benefits there as well. So that little exercise there as well. I think I can come back here now. Let me just pull my chair up. So that little exercise there as well be really useful for the golf swing. Now, obviously, you can then, this one here with a club across your chest, you can then pick up the golf club, do it there, and then find that tripod through your feet, build your posture from there, and then you can start to take your golf swing from there. If you can do it indoors, great. You go into your garden, if you have a garden, and do some swings in there. And I think you'll feel a rhythm and a balance to your swing that's going to be really, really, really useful. So I hope that those principles have been good. There's one more thing I'd like to go through with you, but I hope that we have achieved so far our objective, which is to hopefully get you to think about your mind and body in a different way. Get you to go back to the truth of how they both work. Those fundamentals. Vince Lombardi, who is a very famous American football coach, was famous for, in his pre-season training, he'd get all the team back together. So we're talking about the best American footballers come back together at the start of the year for the pre-season training. And he would gather them around and he would hold up a football. And he would say, "Gentlemen, this is a football." That's how far back he went to the basics, because he didn't want things layered on top that were not essential or not going to work. And so I hope what you've gained from this is the understanding of how important some of these, and these are golf basics, but they're body and mind basics that then will benefit your golf. So you're then building your golf swing around the nature of how your mind and body works. And I hope that's going to cross over into your life as well. Now, I would love, with your permission, to share with you something that I'm doing coming up, which you may be interested in. So if it's okay with you, unfortunately I can't hear you. And by the way, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat bar as we're going along here. I know we're nearly at the end, but just any questions you've now got that's propped up in your mind, put them into the chat bar. I'll have a look in a moment and see if we can answer some of those as well, if there's any that come up. If there's not, no problem. But I'm going to take it as a yes, you don't mind me just taking a few minutes of your time just to share something with you. I've run a program in the past called Mind of a Champion. Run it for many years, and this has been attended by Ryder Cup players through to pretty much beginners, because it's about developing and cultivating a mind that you might say that the winners have. It's looking at what they do, understanding the nature of the mind, and modeling some of those top players, top business people, etc., and giving you the habits, the skills, the tools of developing that mind of a champion. It's been a very, very successful program. Obviously, the world has changed. We're looking to do it different ways. So it's now being created into modules. And so it's been revised and updated, and that's going to be released soon. I would love you to come and attend that if you're interested in doing that. So I want to put forward to you a special offer as a thank you really for attending with me today on this presentation. Here's some of the things you're actually going to learn during those different modules. So the great thing is you can learn at your own pace, at your own time. The modules will be released gradually, and they're done in that way so that you layer in the proper way. As we said, we want to build from the foundations up properly so that you have that real unshakable confidence in yourself and unshakable belief in yourself. So here's a taste of what you learn. You'll learn the science a bit more about how to stay emotionally balanced. We go into that in a little bit more depth and give you more exercises to make sure you master that. The secret of goal setting. Goal setting is something that's spoken about a lot. We all want to do it. But actually, unless you understand one really important part about goal setting, most of the time it won't work. And it's critical you have to understand this. I'll be sharing what that is as well. How to genuinely own the traits of those people you admire, whether it be golfers, business people, whatever it is. Sometimes we look at other people, we put them on a pedestal and think, oh gosh, they're amazing. And we negate ourselves, we put ourselves down in a pit. Well, whether that's for your golf or any other area, you're not going to be able to perform at your best if you're putting other people above you. This again isn't positive thinking. It's not cocky confidence. This is about learning an art and learning a tool to help you own those traits of those people genuinely. Because then when you see you have it in yourself, then you use it. If you can't see where you've got it, you can't use it. I help you understand how to do that and show you how to do that. How to keep present one shot at a time, how to keep your mind focused one shot at a time. Many of you might have habits, you think, oh, I'd love to break these habits. Again, could be in golf and in life. I show you how to break those habits any unwanted habit, we'll learn how to get rid of those in a really profound way. How to build unshakable self-belief. So they and much more will be in that. That's really how the programs work in modules. Let me give you the offer I'd like to give you today. The Mind of a Champion, last time it was sold was £197. We're also putting together a collection of the tips that I've done over the years. I think it's going to be actually way more than 30 actually when it's done. That's going to have a value of £97. Though many of you may know, I have a book called Intuitive Golf on the Golf Swing. It covers some of the things we've spoken about today. You'll get an e-version copy of that, £27. And we're actually going to do another little program called Wake Up Your Feet for Better Golf, which is going to expand on some of these basics that we've just talked about here. So you actually can make sure you get those integrated into your golf swing. That's got a value of £57. And I think maybe the most important one is you'll get 3 months membership to a private Facebook group, which I'll be in on a regular basis to answer questions and give more support and feedback to help you on your journey in both areas. As you probably gather by now, I love the correlation and the crossing between golf and life. So I tend to see the two together. As you see, it has a value of £378 plus because the Facebook. I'd love to give you a special today. If you just use the code, there's a link there. You can get this for £57, and you're going to be the first ones in there because this is being rehashed and redevised for the times we're in. But you'll have access to it for life, so you'll be able to dip in and out of it as much as you want. So for just £57, you can get all that. That's the link. We'll send you the link as well. It'll be I'll put it in the chat. All you need to do is use that code CGA. So I really hope you can join me on that. I hope that today you have found beneficial and useful. I hope you've got some ideas that you will go and apply. So what I'll do, let me just have a look at some of the chat. So I'm just going to do this and see what's going on in the chat box.